Hey, this is David the RV Shepherd coming to you today with my top 10 list of RV roof issues that we've seen over the last 6 or 7 months during certified RV inspections that we've performed for our clients. If you don't know and you haven't heard, you absolutely should be doing RV roof inspections every year at a minimum if you own an RV. If you are looking at buying an RV, you absolutely should get on the roof of the RV that you're looking at, assuming that you can get on the roof. There's some exceptions, but one rule I always look at is if it has a ladder, you can get on the roof. But otherwise, you need to get up there and at least be looking at the roof. In hundreds of inspections, I can count in less than one hand the number of RV roofs that didn't have any issues at all. I'm talking about new or used, kept indoors under air conditioned situations where they were in climate controlled environments. Even then, you still can have RV roof issues. So, one of the big things with roof issues is water intrusion. It's not the only thing, but that is the biggest thing. So, we're going to go through the top 10 list of things that we've seen, 10 being the least, one being the worst. Number 10 is something we see pretty often on older coaches, and that is some Clearcoat starting to dry up and flake off. It's mostly cosmetic, but like anything else with an RV, it's not going to get better over time. It's only going to get worse. So the question you got to ask yourself is, are you okay with that? Can you live with it? Or do you want it to be perfect pretty? And if so, then that's going to take some professional RV painting to be done to fix that. Number 9. This one is something I've actually only seen this once, but it helps highlight how the smallest thing can actually go unnoticed unless you're just actually looking. This is a vent, and that black thing to the left is the vent cover is tilted open. And where that arrow is pointing and kind of the blurry blow up, you can't see real well, is a screw that is preventing that vent from opening. It took me a little bit to figure this out because at first I thought just the vent was not opening. Like you push the button to open it and it just wouldn't open until I figured out after doing the roof inspection part that there was actually a screw in there holding it. Not quite sure why, but that is something that a previous owner had done. Make one note on this, not related to the screw, but to see how this vent cover opens. On the bottom right of the picture, you can see there's two pins that connect on the right hand side to pin that lid down. Look at that right now because one of the upcoming ones is related to how I've seen these vent covers be installed wrong. Number 8. Hey, look at that. It's the vent covers that are installed wrong. See these red rectangles? Hey, let me jump in real quick and offer you a free gift, a free RV checklist that you can pick up at noregretrv.com. That's noregretrv.com. Go there, select the lists you want. We'll be adding more to them. Come back often. If you've already got a list and you lost it, you can go back and ask for it again. No Regret RV to pick up your free RV checklist to help you out in your RV adventure. All right, let's get back to the video. See these red rectangles? They are highlighting and pointing out areas where sealant has been applied on top of the vent cover. So this is just like the previous one in the sense that this black part is a cover that goes over a vent that is supposed to open. So there's a vent lid and then there's a vent cover. That cover is designed to be easily removed so you can get to one, maintenance the vent lid, two, check the vent lid for anything that could be leaking. And so in this case, the previous owner or someone at a shop who did not know what they were doing tried to seal the vent lid itself. So, and I kind of get the concepts that, well, the water comes over, if it's raining, water will come onto the vent lid and then it will just go off onto the roof and go away. But that is not the way these are designed. One is you can't seal it 360 because it's open on one end to allow airflow. Vent covers like these should not be sealed at all. They're just pinned down in place. Number 7, this is also related to vent covers, and this is really just kind of an annoyance of mine. It's something that I wish manufacturers would change. It's only going to change if consumers start to demand that it changes, and that is putting rusty components on the outside of an RV. And I see it pretty frequently with these vent cover tabs. So this is another example, different shaped pins that hold these down, but it's the same concept where there is a post with a hole in it, and then that pin goes through that hole to hold the vent cover in place. But as you can see on these, all four of these are rusted. Like I said in previous parts of this video, it's not going to get better over time. The rust is only going to get worse, and it's going to get more pitted, and eventually it is going to fail. So just something to look at if you're looking at an RV, again, getting up on that roof, or you're doing your own annual inspection, to look at that. And if it is your RV, then to start thinking about how you can mitigate that. Number 6, I'll just call broken equipment. This is just one example, but it could be a satellite dish. It could be a King system like this. It could be a wine guard system. You have a radio antenna probably just sticking up. But the other ones that are in some kind of encapsulated, either a dome or like this King one is in a little tower thing, those are there to protect the antennas. And in this case, like it's broken. I've seen other ones where the dome is cracked on an enclosed satellite enclosure or an enclosed wine guard system. And just know that that dome is there for a reason. And if it's not there, what's going to happen? In this case, the bottom of that's just going to get all wet and water's going to sit in there. If it's a big dome, it actually can start to fill up that dome with water. So check your stuff. Make sure that it's not broken or cracked in any of those exterior mounted units. Number 5, this one just is kind of like a no-brainer. As we get down to the lower numbers, we're getting to more and more serious issues. But I think most of us know that you shouldn't have a screw sticking up on your front end cap. It just kind of goes without saying. That's an obvious place where water intrusion can happen. It'll just run right down those screw thread and come into your RV. Plus, that screw is supposed to be holding that end cap on. I recommend you tighten that screw down. A lot of RV manufacturers will use rivets because they're actually a little bit stronger. If you are doing rivets, just make sure you're using a stainless steel rivet. Do not use an aluminum rivet because typically aluminum rivets, just the aluminum is softer, and so it can give way easier. Number 4, your roof AC covers are typically bolted in place. If you want to know more about roof AC covers and how they look and how they work, follow along because my Wednesday upcoming tech video this week, I am replacing my motor and my capacitor in my air conditioner, which is something that you can do if that is a problem with your AC unit. There are some things with a failed AC unit that you can actually repair yourself. So follow along for that video. But here for this roof inspection, one of the things to look at is you want to tug on your AC covers and make sure that they're secure in place. In this case, this one is missing a screw. Here's another one. Some of them, the screws are on the top. This one is missing a screw. So when you pull up on it, the whole thing kind of lifts up a little bit. And it may not seem like a big deal, but when you're traveling down the highway, going highway speeds, the air is pulling up on that vent cover. And the last thing you want is that thing to go flipping up through the air and crash into someone's windshield. Number 1, you're out an AC cover. Number 2, you've now potentially injured somebody or damaged property of somebody else that you're going to be responsible for. So that's something to check. In many, if not most cases, the AC cover is actually part of the flow of air inside there. And so without the cover, the air doesn't flow where it needs to. So I'm saying all that to say, don't think that just because, the cover's missing, but I can still run the AC. You can, but you'll probably just be air conditioning the outside environment. Nobody wants to do that. Number 3, this one I called the Widowmaker. I know you're like, well, this isn't a roof. It's like, well, this is how you get on the roof. And that is through the ladder that's mounted to the back of this coach. And you can see that this step, and this is actually the second run from the top. So we're pretty far up. And if you notice, I'm not even on that ladder. I have my own A-frame ladder set up behind it. I do not trust RV ladders at all. I hate them. They feel flimsy. I don't know what could be done to shore them up to make them better. I found a couple, and I don't remember the brands, that were really rigid and sturdy and firm, and those I felt pretty good about. But so many of them, they're wobbly, and I'm 225 pounds. I'm not a super big guy, but I'm just thinking if this thing's wobbly with me, I can't imagine what it's like for some other people. In this case, this step, the right-hand side where that red circle is, started to crack, and that is part of the actual mounting thing of how the step is mounted to those poles. Actually, I did step on this step because I had to step on there once or twice to get on the roof. I could feel it popping down, and I looked at it. I was like, oh my goodness, this is a serious case of personal injury that could happen if you're that far up on this ladder and that step were to completely give way. So look at your steps on your ladders. One other thing related to ladders is look at how they're mounted. Those mounts on the RV should be secure. And like you can see, this one is flaring out a little bit. Obviously, that's bad, but also it should be secure. If you tug on that ladder, those poles that mount to the sidewall should not move. I have seen one where you tugged on it and the bolts were only in the fiberglass, and that fiberglass was flexing as that pole was being tugged on. So that should not be the case. They should be firm and secure to the RV. Number two is what I call either cracks or gaps in the sealant. It kind of depends on how they are. But like this is the rollover sidewall of a coach. This particular one, the owner had used, I think it's like the white tropical paint stuff on it to seal the whole roof. But you can see here where there's some places where it's missed. And so water's going to run off the side and go right into that crack and get in some of that trim piece that is holding the roof to the sidewall. Here's some other examples. This is a plumbing vent, and this is an example of sealant that is getting old and it's dry and it's starting to crack. Here's another example from that same RV. This is under the air horns. It's again starting to crack, starting to as it cracks, it starts to open up little places that water can get in. Here's another one on the trim mounting piece for the roof of a fiberglass roof. The far right is just trying to zoom in on that a little bit. It looks kind of blurry, but you can see how there's just this gap on that trim piece, and that's where water is going to go in. You do not want water to come into your RV. It is bad. Number one, the worst thing we've seen, and it's going to be a variation of number two, and it is just worse cracking and gapping in the sealant. This is an example of an end cap. There's some Eternabond, maybe not that brand name, but some Eternabond type tape on there. You know, don't think just based on the name that you put Eternabond tape on your RV that means it's fixed forever, for eternity. That is not the case. This Eternabond tape is cracking and gapping. And then on the rollover part, I'll show you some more pictures here, but this is the number one place where I see gaps and cracks in sealant on RV roofs, and that is where the rollover is from the roof to the sidewall, where the front or rear caps meet in that three-way intersection. This is a roof that I could not believe this. This one barely had any sealant on it. There's a little close-up of it. One, it barely had any sealant to begin with from the factory. You can see kind of up here next to my head level. It's like that thick. It's usually it's like this thick, like 2 inches thick, 4 inches thick. This is barely, if even 1 inch thick. And then it had all kind of dry rotted and chipped away. And what you can't see here, though, is that I could push down. I can't remember if it was down on the fiberglass roof, which is the white part, or up on the black end cap or front cap. And you could stick your hand in there. And this was actually a Winnebago motor coach RV, and it looked really, really nice. I mean, you walked around the outside, this thing looked gorgeous. The inside looked gorgeous, but it had this problem. We also found water leaking or water coming in on the inside. It began making a puddle. If you want, go look at my previous video from last week about RV slide out issues. This is where we saw in this same RV. You can go look at that. The sealant on these end caps is just really, really important. This curved over piece, again, this is where I see lots of gaps in the sealant. And again, you don't have to be a scientist, an RV manufacturer, or even a tech or inspector to see that this probably isn't good. This is probably a place where water can get into this RV. So that does it for RV roof issues that we've seen over the last 6 or 7 months this year in 2024. Anything that you've seen, I'd love to hear about it. Comment below. And if you have any RV roof questions, I'd love to hear those. Listen, RV roofs are one of those things that I think for some people are kind of a mystery. And for other people, if you're diligent and you get up there and you look at it at least once a year, you can identify them, you can address them, and you correct them before they ever become any kind of problem. Listen, if you're brand new to RV and you're thinking about buying your first RV, or you already have your first RV and you feel like you're kind of a newbie, this channel is dedicated to providing information and education that can help you in your first RV buying experience or your first RV owner experience. I want to help you be as equipped as possible to have an RV without regret. Follow along for more information and education like this. I'm David, the RV Shepherd. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.